You're listening to Ace Podcast Nation, the hottest new podcast network and YouTube channel in the UK, featuring original series, top guests, expert analysts, and more. Check out facebook.com/Acecast Nation for news on latest guests and shows. Watch every show in full at youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation.
I'm Ben Ellis, Cage Warriors Featherweight. Check out and subscribe to Ace Podcast Nation on YouTube for one of the best fight podcasts around, and the Danny Batten Fight Show every Wednesday for all MMA news.
Champion, welcome, Danny Batten!
Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 64. Tonight we're going to be talking to our special guest, plus we'll have a look at the latest news and rumours from the fight world, and of course breaking down last night's incredible UFC Fight Night card, and lastly we'll finish off with some predictions of next week's fights. But the show is as ever available in video format, youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Click the bell, subscribe to get all the good shows. We do shows on all sorts of subjects, from MMA and boxing to football, mental health in sport, and loads of others, from serial killers, true crime, and others. But of course, you can also get the audio versions at the usual podcast platforms. If you just search Ace Podcast Nation, you'll find over 380 shows of all different subjects, some top names, expert analysts, and more. Links to which are all in the description below. But joining me, as ever, the co-host with the most, former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend. It is Mr. Danny Footlong Batten. Danny?
Mate, I'm liking that title. I'm liking that title.
That's a one-off, mate.
That can stick.
That's a one-off.
Yeah, I'm good. So, but Modestas, thanks for coming on. It's great to have you back on as always. We see a lot of each other anyway. It's great to always see you.
Thank you so much, obviously, guys, again for having me on and everything. As always, it's lovely chatting to you both.
Indeed, we're gonna have a good chat, mate. We've got lots to talk about. We haven't spoken to you for a while, but Danny stole my thunder a little bit there. But we are delighted to welcome back our special guest for this week, none other than UFC light heavyweight. It is Modestas, the Baltic Gladiator Bukauskas. Welcome back, my friend.
Yes,
See
mate.
that, Danny?
Thank you.
That is how you pronounce your fighters' names, okay, mate?
You did pretty damn good. I'll
Solid.
stick to keeping nicknames.
That's it, mate.
They're easier.
That's it.
Keep it to the nickname, Big Mo.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Footlong. I don't mind.
Big Mo, Footlong, bloody hell, just all coming around, isn't it?
Yeah, what's going on there? What is going on at BST, I tell you. So
You've got a lot of talent at this gym, that's for sure.
There is that.
That's it. A load of talent there. Very friendly guys. That's how I've heard. But look, Modestas, I'm not going to beat around the bush, mate. I want to ask you some difficult questions. Going to put you under pressure, put you on the spot. But obviously, since we last spoke, you fought Jimmy Crute.
Yep.
Even before the fight, we said, myself and Danny said, it's a very, very tricky opponent, Jimmy Crute. It was, he's not. I think he was definitely a step up from anyone you had fought so far, particularly in the UFC. And I was wondering, in hindsight, would you think you would have taken that Jimmy Crute fight maybe a couple of fights down the line?
No. I think everything all happens for a reason. I think everything happens in its stride. And I think there's certain you know, like they offer you like a really big fight, such as the one as Jimmy Crute, and you know, I feel like you got to have a belief in your skill set, belief in your fighting ability, to go out and perform. And the thing is, there's a massive opportunity to get right up into the rankings, get into the top 15, and really get into the top of the ranks in the UFC quite quickly. And like I said, I had no doubt in my mind that I had the skill set, and I still do, and I still think I do. It's just, you know, on the day, he was just a better man. He had a much better game plan and strategy, and credit to him and his team for implementing it really well. You know, I think a lot of people, might have thought, oh, it's a bit crazy taking a fight like that and stuff like that. But like I said, if I thought genuinely that I couldn't beat him, I probably would have said, you know, okay, fine, I'll take another fight. Or, you know, maybe something a bit lower down. But I genuinely had the belief, and I still, like I said, I still do, that I can go and beat that guy. But like I said, that fight will probably happen somewhere down the line now. And yeah, just in the fight, his strategy and game plan was just better than mine, and credit to him for implementing it. Like I said, I couldn't find my rhythm and time in the way I wanted to, and because I'm notorious for being a bit of a slow starter, that's what inevitably caused my downfall in that fight. But everything we'd been working on worked great. I mean, I stopped the takedown, which, you know, he even said like that was one of his best takedowns. You know, he gets everyone down with that particular timing and stuff like that. So the things that we've been working on really aggressively work, but you know, now it's told me the things that I need to work on now, to help me to go and compete with the best and like compete with the top contenders. You need to have those lessons, because had I'd won or whatever, then I wouldn't have learned certain things that I needed to do to really improve and like put my game into like the next level to really go and compete with those top level guys. So I'm actually very thankful that it happened, because it highlighted the areas that I need to work on, highlighted the holes, and my team and everyone with me, you know, including Danny and my dad and everyone at, you know, everyone that I trained with. Now we're working collectively together to bring out the best of me, and to improve skill set areas that I need to, like I say, to compete at the highest level. So I'm very thankful that this fight actually happened, because it taught me a hell of a lot.
Yeah, like for me, like before the fight, I thought it was going to be a tough fight for you, but I thought you would win. And I still, like you said, I still believe that if you did that fight 100 times, you would win a good portion of those, probably more than 50%, I would say. Jimmy Crute is a top fighter, but you hit the nail on the head in what you said. Like on the day, not only was his game plan good, but he implemented it very, very well. And I'm sure, like both of you guys will know, like sometimes you can have a game plan and you're unable to implement it as a fighter because of the other fighter, or it just, things don't go your way. But like for him, everything that they planned and everything which they had put in place to stop you kind of just clicked into place nicely. And yeah, it's just, I've watched the fight a couple of times. It's interesting to watch. Was it hard to pick yourself up mentally after it?
I think initially, yeah. You know, when you have so much belief in yourself, you're doing all the visualization, you're doing so many things, you're training, you're just focusing, you're doing all of that, and then to not have the outcome that you sort of wanted and what you were sort of expecting in your mind, obviously it was, and especially when, do you know what? If I would have got my ass whooped for 3 rounds and he was just that much of a better fighter, I would have put my hands up and said, you know what, I would have took the fight, actually, I would have took that loss easier, because it's like, okay, I've just got a hell of a lot to work on. I'm going to go to the gym and just get straight on it. But when it's a fight that you truly feel that you could win, and then it doesn't go the other way, or you don't perform to the best of your ability, and you know you can do so much better, that's even more sort of painful for a fighter, when you know you've got more of a skill set and you weren't able to show it on the night, when you know you're much more capable. But you know, I think after a couple of weeks, you know, after I had my bit of grief and stuff like that, I just, you know, I picked up the pieces. I had, you know, very close people to me, like I say, having Danny there, having my dad there, you know, all my other coaches and close people with me, to just, you know, continue motivating me and continue to tell me to keep pushing myself and just to keep trying to improve, and telling me what areas I need to just sort of when you've got a mindset of I want to improve, then the feeling of pain and grief and sadness goes away, because all you're thinking about then, you just put your sole concentration on, I just need to improve, I need to get in the gym, work on it. And then when you see yourself slowly picking things up, picking up the pieces, building on those blocks, then you're back into it. So yeah, it was sad at the beginning, but then shortly after I got into my training, I got into my groove, I'm like, do you know what, I'm ready to get back in there and get another fight. So let's just keep improving for now.
Yeah, and I think, like I said before many times, I'm not a fighter, I'm not a coach, or I'm nothing like that. And I think, looking at it from the outside, it feels like, it was disappointing, but you've kind of got to just look at it for what it is. Like Jimmy Crute, I was just looking now, is ranked 12th, and like, I look at that division and I feel like he could progress like quite nicely up that division if he has the right fights. He's a very, very capable fighter. What did he say to you after the fight?
Do you know what? He's a very nice fella. Both me and him, we had a beer afterwards upstairs in like the lounge area by the pool and stuff like that. And it's funny because he was explaining to me the things that inevitably gave me the understanding of what I actually need to do in my training camps. It's funny because you wouldn't learn these things unless you had those losses and you had those experiences to highlight the areas that you need to concentrate more on. One of which was that his game plan. I mean, he'd been watching my fights and he'd been seeing my tendencies. And it's funny because when you're a fighter, you don't necessarily see your own tendencies or things that work for you in training or work for you in certain fights. You do them consistently without even thinking about it. And he caught onto that. And then that's what caused my downfall. That was one of the things that I took from the conversation with him, was that he was always trying to slip one of my punches to connect his own punch. Or, I'll do like a punch and then a kick with one side. And it was twice that actually he caught me with something off of a punch and a kick off the same side, where usually it would work for me. In that fight, it didn't. So it took me a while to sort of get my rhythm, but some of the good things I took from it, he said, your wrestling defense was really good because that was one of my best takedowns. And, he just told me, keep your chin up. And he said, listen, you're going to be in a force in the division. You're just, they knew that no one else wanted to fight him. Everyone was afraid of fighting Jimmy Crute because he is such a big talent, obviously, and he's created a wave when he came into the UFC. And the fact that I took it, obviously, he showed me respect for that. So like I said, we had a good conversation. It highlighted areas that maybe I needed to work on more or do more of that he was doing in his camp that brought his victory onto me. So it was nice. Like I said, there was no. It was a very sportsmanlike attitude that was performed between me and him before the fight, during and after. So, like I say, we're both going to go our separate ways, but I'm pretty sure somewhere down the line we're going to meet again.
Yeah, Danny, I was going to ask you, using your crystal ball, do you think we see Jimmy Crute versus Modestas Bukauskas again?
Yeah, I do, and I'll tell you why, because they're both so young in that division. They really are, at the right side of their youth to still grow, perform, and perfect their game. I absolutely think that. I think the difference between them both in that performance was the fact that Crute's been more settled on that world-class format. He's had more experience there, so I think you can find your rhythm and find your distance in. Everything just settles quicker. And he was settled from the get-go, straight from the gate. And Modestas, already admits that he's not always the quickest starter, although I think that's going to become the case with maturity and growth. I don't know, it's like 100 meters. Sometimes, that sprint's lost out from the blocks. And, it just couldn't get settled. And eventually, the strike started landing. Look, Crute, to me, I know he's ranked number 12, but I think his true ranking is in the top 5. I don't think he's going to have any issues up until top 5. And, with my perspective, me and Modestas don't always agree on everything, but we have a really good friendship where we can sort those differences out and sort of meet in the middle. But for me, I was always worried and dubious of him fighting someone like Crute because I ranked him higher than the ranking that he was at. I think he was ranked number 16 at the time, but I always saw him in the top 10 at the time when Modestas wanted to take that fight. But Modestas and young people like Modestas, they're like racehorses in their prime. The reason why they have a jockey is because they pull their chin down so they don't go at full stride and lose the race. They let them go free at the right time. So as a coach, and in conversations obviously with managers, you try to hold them back and pick the right fights at the right time. Now, the situation I think arose with Modestas wanting to take the fight, which is having belief in himself, which he absolutely should. If you don't believe you can take on anyone in the UFC division, you shouldn't be in the UFC.
Yeah.
But with that said, I would say I'm a real commonsensical type of coach, and I look at my students as a not only as a friend but as a product of growth and expansion. And to me, sometimes that has to be done in a steady way. But the situation we have with Modestas, he come under us, not solely under us, because there's a lot of coaches involved in Modestas' improvement. As you know, his dad is his main coach, and an absolutely incredible coach. You have to watch and experience what he does for Modestas to believe in what I ever say when I advocate how incredible he is as a coach. But the situation we had was he come under us about 2 years ago. I think it was just a little over 2 years ago. And then he went on a massive winning spree. I think he had something like a 7-win streak.
Yeah,
7 win streak. Yeah, which is incredible, especially at the level he was fighting at. It was in Cage Warriors, which is a world-class event. People go from Cage Warriors to UFC and carry on performing wins. So, and he's fighting world-class wrestlers and winning. And just like I say, just like a racehorse, when they begin to get going, they feel invincible. And that's a great thing. But as a coach, you try to rein them in like, no, don't take that fight, take a lesser fight. That's the way. It's not because I don't believe in Modestas, because like I say, he could beat anyone in that division. He has that skill set already to do so. But I do want him to settle and feel to gain more pressure performance at that level, so that he can switch on earlier in that first round rather than a little later. And I definitely think Modestas will be fighting Crute again. I think he will get the win next time around. And but nothing's going to change right now other than focusing on the fight that we got ahead. That's what we're working on. Like Modestas said, now game plan is so much more valuable to us after the experience he had with Crute. And boy, are we putting a game plan in motion. Modestas' training is looking absolutely incredible. Every training camp has its issues to get over, but we're finding we're getting over them so quickly that things this time are really, really smooth running. I'm feeling absolutely confident. I know Modestas is feeling confident. This is just a fantastic time for his career.
Well, just on Jimmy Crute, Dan, obviously I said he's ranked 12th. He's fighting on the 27th. He was due to fight Johnny Walker, who's ranked number 9. Walker's injured, so they've put him against Anthony Smith, who's ranked 6, sorry. And I got to be honest, I see Jimmy Crute beating Anthony Smith. So that backs up again what you just said about him. Really, he's probably a top 5 fighter. So
absolutely,
it's that division is really interesting, because I feel like there's a handful, probably 5-6 fighters outside the rankings and sort of lower down that top 15 who probably beat some of the older heads higher up in the rankings. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that light heavyweight division develops over the next 18 months, because assuming that there's no break and the cards keep coming on a weekly basis, we could see some big fights. Danny, on just as a coach, what was the hardest thing after Modestas' loss and his first loss in the UFC? Like, what was the hardest thing in the aftermath of that for you?
Seeing how much he hurt. It was devastating. All the students have such a passion. And Modesta's probably got some of the most passion I've ever witnessed before. That hurts me. It's not nice to see. It's like seeing your little brother, get hurt because he does a tournament of any stretch, and he's young and hurts, and you feel their emotion. It hurts. It's the only thing. But look at the way Modestas is talking about it now. This is his growth. He is a young lad. And he's developing as a person into a blossoming adult, and yeah, he was sulky, he was upset, he was disappointed. But look the way that a little bit of time has changed his attitude. Now he's taken real positive things from that potentially negative experience, and therefore it's not truly negative. Yes, it's a loss, but this is a fight game at the highest order. This is in UFC. You know, to go through unbeaten is a real oddity. You're going to have your losses from time to time, although we try to keep that to a bare minimum.
It's how you react to them, isn't it?
Yeah, it is how you react to it, and the reaction is not really what matters immediately after, because there's so much emotion involved. What really matters is the adaptation over time. And like I say, look at what Modestas has done. He's turned this into nothing but a positive situation, an evolution situation, where he's now adapted his training, and we're just all getting better. I'm not a perfect coach, but what this is doing is helping me, along with Modestas, along with the other students that experience their successes and their fails, to grow. And we're all getting better from this. And yeah, just watch this space. Good things are coming. I guarantee that.
Excellent. Modestas, I mentioned Jimmy Crute's got a fight on the 27th. You also have a fight coming up soon. Is that on the 27th as well?
Yeah, I think Jimmy's fight has been moved to UFC 261.
Okay.
So I believe his fight's now on April 20th or 21st or something.
Got you.
Because I think Anthony Smith said that he wasn't ready to fight at that time, so they moved it. But mine will be on the 27th, yeah.
And who's that against?
So it's going to be against Michał Oleksiejczuk from Poland.
Okay.
And yeah, so UFC 260, I mean, it's a massive card. We've got the heavyweight title as the main event against Ngannou and Miocic. There's some big names on that card, so I'm really privileged to be able to fight on such a massive event.
Yeah, that's a big card. It doesn't get any bigger than a pay-per-view with the heavyweight title as the main event. That's like that's the cream of the crop, isn't it? You know, that's that's from the outside, especially for maybe the casual viewer looking in. Like in boxing and MMA, like the heavyweight title is the big daddy, isn't it? That's the one that everyone looks at. So like you say, be on that card is interesting. Do you know much about your opponent?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, we've been focusing a lot on game plan and watching tape together and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, look, he's a good fighter. Obviously, he wouldn't have the record, such an extensive record that he has without being gifted in certain areas. And mainly his main strength is his striking with a powerful rear hand. But obviously, there are a lot of faults which me, Danny, and the team have all been looking into, which we are going to look to exploit. So yeah, I think he's a very good athlete, a very good competitor, but very beatable, and that is exactly the mindset I'm going into this fight with.
As so obviously, like, I don't want to harp on your loss, but like obviously it was your first loss of the UFC. Has anything changed about your preparation for this next fight because of that?
Slightly. It's changed in a couple of ways. So, like I said, strategy has become more of an important role in my training. We literally all sat down as a team together and figured out all the points. I have it written in my notebook. We figured out exactly what his tendencies are, what he does. Listen, in a fight, you're going to have to adapt to whatever the guy throws at you on the day. But obviously, like I say, there's things that you second nature go back to. Doesn't matter what you do. So obviously, we're looking just to see what those tendencies are. So that was one thing. So highlighting those particular areas. The second thing I think is just doing different things in sparring. So you're trying to achieve particular goals in sparring, and especially for me in my growth and stuff like that. So everything's just like very linked more towards this particular fight. Like I said, you've got to adapt to whatever gets thrown in during the fight. But everything in my sparring, to my pad work, to my wrestling and everything, we're doing it very, very specific to this opponent. And yeah, I'm just coming with a bit more intensity. I think, you can be a sportsman and you can be a good guy and this and that, but when it comes to fighting, you got to have a little bit of some sort of fierceness, a bit of intensity to you. I've definitely added that to my training. I've got a sports psychologist helping me as well, just like talking to me and stuff like that to get that out of me again, because I feel like that's when I perform at my best. So I'm using that to sort of help me get out. And aside from that, and I've got to bring out a bit of my striking roots again. I feel like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, you got to concentrate on all aspects and stuff like that. But I need to bring out some of the venom and stuff, some of the stuff that was sort of a little bit in the back burner. I was worrying a lot about defense, and don't get me wrong. I'm still working on all those things. But I'm having a bit more of an offensive mindset as well, because at the end of the day, when I'm fighting further on, yeah, you're going to have to do the defense, but you're going to have to be offensive as well, and you're going to have to implement your game plan and your will as much as having to defend certain things. So it's just basically opening up my skill set and just filling in the gaps, filling in the holes, as Danny would say, just filling in the cracks to make sure that I become more of a complete fighter. And not only will this help me for this fight, but every other fight in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting, mate, there about the sports psychologist and just bringing out like a bit of an edge by the sounds of it. And when you look at all the top athletes, fighters, footballers, rugby players, runners, whatever sport it is, the very top guys have got that fierceness. They've got a bit of an edge to them. Sometimes they can be a bit be perceived as being a bit nasty, but it's not necessarily nasty. It's that competitiveness and that will to win by any means necessary on the day, in the match, in the fight. And it sounds like that's something that you're looking to bring out to the party, which I look forward to seeing that, because it's obvious, like, your striking, it's clear. If anyone's seen any of your previous fights, seen video clips of you training, you've got some incredible strikes in your locker. So I look forward to seeing some of those, mate. I gotta say,
I can't wait to show it out for you. Like I say, I'm definitely feeling very confident. The train's been going absolutely amazing, and like I say, the fight couldn't come any sooner for me.
So we had a couple of questions sent in for you. JD said, what's your favourite entrance music, and is it any different to music which you would train to or run to?
To be honest, yeah, like my entrance music, I've just literally found a song, probably, I think, either just this weekend or like these past 2 days ago, that I'm like, that's it, that is the song. Because usually I come out to gigs talking the hardest. For you oldies, obviously, you're not going to know who that is, or
I know who that is.
sort of genres that's going to be, but you know what I mean.
Bit
but
grime,
that's my usual tune, just because it gets me in like that fight sort of mood and that fight zone. It's like a very aggressive sort of song. But yeah, I mean, my entrance song would be very similar to like all the other songs that I listen to when I'm training. I don't know. I like hip hop, but the thing is, I like rock. I like all genres. I find it so funny how when I was very young, it's like you're almost trying to impress people, and you're part of a certain group or whatever, and like you funnel yourself to only a particular genre. Like I used to listen to hip hop and rap, and that was it. Did not listen to rock. Did not listen to any other type of things or whatever. And I used to literally hate it and push it to the side. But as you get older, you realize, like, obviously what people think of you and what kind of groups you're hanging with doesn't matter at all. And then you sort of open up your horizons. Especially when I went to America, they listened to completely different music. I remember the first couple of days they were playing hip hop just to keep me happy, because that's what I told them that I liked. And then literally 3 days later, they looked at themselves and they started playing what they really like hardcore, those screamo type music. And I was literally sitting there, like, my ears were ringing. I'm like, what is going on? But after about a couple of weeks, I'm like, do you know what? I'm actually finding this pretty catchy. So it's crazy how, as time goes on, you learn to appreciate more genres and more forms. So yeah, I guess that's just, that's just what happens in development as a human,
Yeah, 100%, mate. John asks, if you could fight any fighter, past or present, who would it be?
It's the same answer every single time, and it is John Jones. I mean, I've said it on so many interviews before. I mean, not only having the privilege of being able to train with him and like on a daily basis, and when he was training, coming back, I think, for his Ovent St. Preux fight, just being around him and just seeing his aura and just his mentality and stuff like that, that was when he was like really focused to getting back in and getting back on a winning streak and stuff like that. So I mean, listen, he's a legend of the sport. Came in at such a young age and dominated after like literally 6 months training, and then within a couple of years he became the UFC world champion. I mean, to fight a legend, to fight like probably the GOAT of MMA at this time. I mean, what more of an amazing fight would that be to have? To be able to face the GOAT, the guy who's considered the best of all time. For me, that would be the fight that would be like my absolute dream fight. Just to be able to go and compete against the best in the sport. Because when you're training for these things, you want to be the best. You don't just want to be some guy who just I'm going in and trying it. No, I want to be the best, and that would be the only way to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And plus, like, to me, like, he's still unbeaten as well, because like his losses, one was overturned and one was, I think, no contest or a disqualification, I think, on it. But like, how do you see his bout with Adesanya going when they eventually do it?
Oh, what, John Jones and Adesanya?
Yeah.
I believe John Jones would be a lot bigger. I mean, at the minute, it seems like he's like fully shaped into his heavyweight frame. I'm not sure Adesanya would be able to get up to that. I think the size and the wrestling would play a massive factor. I think Adesanya's got amazing striking, but then again, John Jones is also very versatile, and I believe he has a 4.5-inch reach advantage, which would also play a factor. And his legs are so long. Like, I remember sparring him, and you could be in the center. He could be in the center of the cage, and you're literally by the end of the cage, and he could kick you from the center of the cage with a side kick. Wow. And I'm like, how's that even possible? So he's got very long limbs, got absolutely amazing wrestling. I mean, I would see it going into the hands of John Jones. But obviously those type of super fights, obviously they'll be extremely interesting to see. But I do believe obviously Adesanya has got a very unique style himself, so it'll be something very interesting to see. Hopefully that will happen in the future.
Yeah, I think one thing for me with that is people are forgetting that really Adesanya's got to get through Blachowicz first to even get the John Jones fight. And people seem to be just like assuming that, yeah, that's a given. Mate, Blachowicz is an absolute animal. And I'm really looking forward to that fight, because I do feel like people just assume that Adesanya... Look, don't get me wrong, Israel Adesanya is an absolute beast. He is, for me... He's one of probably the best pound for pound fighters in the world, and he's so young. But I think it's a mistake to underestimate Jan Blachowicz, and I'm sure Adesanya and his team are not. But the media and people from like the outside, it's almost like they're looking past Blachowicz, and I'm just like, nah, don't do that, mate.
Blachowicz, he's devastating on the ground, and being that he's naturally bigger than Adesanya, they're probably going to engage in the ground at some point, and it's going to be with Blachowicz on top, and he'll hunt for the submission. He ain't going to dilly-dally just with ground and pound. He's going to strike you to open up for that submission attempt. He's a pretty high-level grappler.
Well, you'd think whether it's John Jones fight or the Blachowicz fight, like you'd think that is to Adesanya is going to want to keep it on the feet, keep it from a distance. Yeah. But that also suits John Jones for the Jones fight. He's happy to fight from a distance, like Modestas mentioned. He's got a tremendous reach. And also, with Blachowicz, at some point, he's going to get hold of Adesanya, unless Adesanya does get like an early KO, which is then going to be problematic. A couple more questions, Mo, for you. In your opinion, who will be the next British champion in the UFC?
Well, obviously, I would say myself. I've got to put that one out there for sure. I definitely believe I'm going to be the next Lithuanian-British UFC champion. But I do think Tom Aspinall's looking like a very promising star in the heavyweight division. I mean, listen, there's a hell of a load of killers in that division also. But he had an absolutely amazing performance last night against Alofsky. Yes, so he definitely seems like a contender coming out. I mean, listen, you've got so many great... I think Britain is starting to produce some very, very good fighters. You've got Nathaniel Wood as well. Jack Shaw is another very, very talented fighter. So, listen, the British are coming. The invasion is very strong. So, we are definitely coming. Not only to get into the top ranks, but, to start winning championships for sure.
Yeah, Dan, we've been saying for a while, haven't we, that like in the next 5 years, we do think that there's going to be almost like an invasion of British names in the rankings and the titles. Even like we spoke to Corey McKenna last week, and like she came off a really impressive debut. She looks like a super talented young lady, and a lot of these British fighters who are coming in to the UFC or are on the brink of the UFC or already in the UFC, they're all so young. And like you mentioned, Jack Shaw, he's like I think 24 or something, and like he's just quietly just destroying people as he's going along. And like the UFC's been quite clever with him in how they've built him up. They've kind of just gradually given him people, and he's taking them apart. So it's going to be interesting. But you mentioned Tom Aspell. I thought he was very impressive, and Andrei Alofsky is quite a big name for him to take. Dan, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, if we remember when we did our predictions, I thought that Alofsky might just get it through his experience. The only thing that Aspinall did, which I was expecting, was for him to get a bit too excited and go for a finish that weren't really there. Do you remember when he clinched up and was going for those body strikes? Kind of really busted a nut, and those body shots weren't really hurting Alofsky. One got through to his face and damaged his face, but Alofsky was still plenty in the picture, and he's not someone that's just going to crumble to a little bit of pressure like that. Excuse me. Then Alofsky started looking quite good, didn't he? He started opening up with his striking. I was thinking, this is where it's going to start turning, and the experience is going to start showing through. But Aspinall, he picked it up and he took it into a different area, and he pulled off the win. He did look very, very good. If people don't beat someone like Aspinall soon, he's going to get experience and he's going to become harder and harder to beat. I mean, this guy's a big guy, 6'5", and he's light on his feet as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if someone doesn't stop him soon, in terms of the next couple of fights, and he just keeps going through people, like you could see him really developing. He's 27. Like in comparison, Alofsky's 42 and Aspinall's 27. Like that's a massive age difference. But I'll be interested, mate, to see how his career develops. We'll talk about that fight in a bit more detail. But before we let you go, Mo, we got one more question from someone, and then I'm going to ask you for some predictions for next week. But Gaz asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Where do I see myself? Well, I can tell you that I actually have some 2-year objectives written out on my little sort of vision boards up there. But I believe I'll be the UFC champion within 2 years. And I'm looking to defend it and be on top of the game I'm hoping within 5 years from now, I'll be at the top of my game, at my peak, and looking maybe at sort of an exit from the game, because you want to make as much money as you can and then get out, and I want to help as many people as possible. Like there's so many things that I have in my sights. Like I want to be able to help the community. A lot of the people that have helped me, I want to help them to do better, and like I want to help like these up and coming fighters, especially even like in Northampton, like other places, especially where I see like there could be like a lot of potential for them to come up and do the same thing. Like I want to be able to help those people. I want to help my family. I want to help like obviously my coaches and my training partners as well. So there's a lot of things that I'm looking to do. So obviously I have my sights set on that within the end of those sort of 5 years from now. Winning a UFC title within 2 years will put me in a good position to be able to help all those people that have helped me come up, especially during the struggles and the hard times, man. You got to remember the people that have helped me through those times, because those are the ones who, like I say, that mean a hell of a lot to me. And like I care a lot about the people that have been with me and grown with me over these years. So I'm looking to do a lot of things with the community. I'm looking to help my dad, and be a world champion. And I want to be famous, man, as well. Like, listen, you got to take everything in your stride. I want to do things, man. So yeah, like I said, everything's going in that direction. So I just got to keep concentrated, keep my mind focused, and just slowly pick off and work towards that.
I like it, mate. I like it. And last question from me. Sorry, mate. Jordan Vucinic, teammate of yours, fighting for the featherweight title in Cage Warriors trilogy the week before yours against Morgan Charrier. Tell me how that fight is going to go, in your honest opinion.
I believe Jordan is going to come out with that strap. What's that? The featherweight strap. He's going to come out with we're going to have another Cage Warriors belt added to the collection. Listen, Jordan is a tremendous athlete. I've watched him and I've trained alongside him over the years, and like I say, our friendship's grown over the years, and he's been under the watchful eye of Danny and Raymond and all the other coaches. And the crazy thing about him is that he's so all-rounded. Like, I've seen him in sparring, like, do a bit of everything, and that's what you need in this game right now, because the game's growing so much. So for him to be able to have everything really well developed, it means that he can control where the game's going to go. In a way, I almost feel like he's sort of been ahead of the game, like because I believe he's only about 2 years younger than me. But when I was that age, he's already ahead of at that time. So, Jordan, I believe, will get the finish. I can't exactly say which round, but listen, he's very methodical. He's got amazing striking, good wrestling. My boy Vicenik is going to come out with the title. Believe that.
Excellent.
And that was my title once. I'm just saying.
Once upon a time, Danny. In the black and white days, then, mate. Right. Let's do our predictions for next week, and then we'll let Mo shoot off. We won't do all of them, just a couple of the bigger fights. I want to ask you first of all about Pedro Munez versus Jimmy Riviera at bantamweight. Munez ranked 8, Jimmy Riviera ranked 9. Could be a good one. Danny, what's your prediction for that one, mate?
Riviera.
And what about you, Mo?
Yeah, I agree with Danny. That's exactly what I would go for. I mean, they're both incredible fighters, but I think Jimmy's, in terms of being more, he's a bit more of the all-rounded fighter, and he's a bit more aggressive. So I think that will come into play, especially when he fights Munez.
Yeah, Jimmy Riviera's on the up and up, and he's been very impressive. I like Pedro Munez, although I think it was his last fight. I thought he was a bit sloppy. It might have been the fight before, though. I'm going to go with Munez. Nikita Krylov versus Makhmed Ankalaev at light heavyweight, ranked 8 versus ranked 11. This is an interesting fight to me, and I'm sure you'll be having a close eye on this one, Modestas. How do you see this fight going?
I'll say Ankalaev will take it. I believe he's a southpaw, from what I've seen. I mean, listen, he's got very good striking. He's got good takedown defense. I mean, listen, he had a little bit of a blip when he fought Paul Craig and got submitted in literally the last second. But in terms of overall, like I said, overall skill set, they both got good grappling. I think Nikita Krylov may have a little bit better grappling, but it seems like Ankalaev has got a better placement of punches. Like, his striking seems a bit more crisp, and he can defend the takedown. I think it's going to be a bit hard for Krylov to overcome that, so I'm going to go with Ankalaev.
Yeah.
What are you, Dan?
I pretty much agree with the whole analysis of what Modesta said. I just think he's more crisper where it matters, and that's going to be on the feet. I can't see it going into another area other than on the feet, to be honest. And I just think he's going to get the job done there. I think he's going to get the finish as well. This ain't going to go the distance.
Interesting. I'm going to go with Nikita Krylov, and
You just love to be different. You just want to say things that are against us, don't you? It's just me and Danny versus you, isn't it?
I just know with predictions, if I go against Danny 9 times out of 10, I'll probably be right. His record's not great, but no, I quite like Nikita Krylov, although I am a big fan of Ankalaev as well. I'm really looking forward to that fight. I just think it's going to be fascinating because ultimately I could see either guy winning and it wouldn't be a shock. So I like fights like that. And then the main event is a heavyweight bout between Rosenstruck and Cyril Gane, ranked 3 versus ranked 7. Danny first, which way do you see that one going, or how do you see it going?
It's a hard one to predict. I'm going to go Rosenstruck, though. I'm going to, let's go with that.
Big man.
Yeah.
Come on then, Mo.
This is the first one that I'm going to be going against, Danny. I think Cyril Gane will have it. I mean, yeah, you could argue that obviously Gane has less experience, but his striking, realistically, I think, is on a different. Again, it's the same between that and Kalive and Krylov. He just seems crisper and he moves better. And yeah, man, I'm gonna have to go
Gain needs space. He needs someone to stand just in front of him. Yeah. Rosenstruck won't do that. He'll run into him, and I think he's going to pressure him.
I think for me, like Cyril Gane he's got reach, weight, and his striking is so good that that's where I think he might catch Rosenstruck is when as Rosenstruck comes in. I think because I think you're right. That's Rosenstruck's best. His best chance of winning is to get in there, get in the pocket, and really try and nail Gane. But I just think that Cyril Gane's striking is superb. It's going to be a good fight though.
He's like really methodical.
Heavyweights, mate, as well.
Yeah, they are. But to me, again, it really does impress me, especially with his last performance. But I think he was allowed to look good in his last performance. I just don't. I think when someone's really clinical and clean with their technique like that, you have to ruffle their feathers. And Rosenstruck's my man to do that, I think. It's going to be interesting. But, as a fan, I really like watching Gane fight. I think he's got great potential. I just don't think he's quite there yet.
Yeah, spot on, mate. There's a couple of fights on the prelims to keep an eye on. William Knight versus Alonzo Mainfield. Really looking forward to that one. And there's Alexander Hernandez versus Thiago Moises. It's like the main fight of the prelims. And there's the two female fights on the prelims look like absolute bangers. You've got Marianne Renoir versus Macy Chieson, and Alexis Davis versus Sabina Mazo. Both of those fights, I think, are going to be superb. So we might have a bit of a longer show next week, Dan, because we might cover all the prelims if they go how I think they're going to go. But Modestas, appreciate you joining us, mate, as ever. Always good to have you, and you're all obviously always welcome back. And I hope next time that we see you, you'll be on the back of an impressive victory in the UFC, my friend.
No doubt, my man. Hey, listen, thank you so much once again for having me on. Like I said, it's an absolute pleasure talking to both of you guys. I mean, I could talk to you guys for ages. As always, we always have a good laugh. We always have a good catch up. And yeah, next time we're going to be speaking, it's going to be us lifting our hands up in victory and getting ready to go on another tear this year. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Much love to both of you guys.
Well done,
Take
man.
it easy, my friend.
Take it easy. Take care, guys.
Modestas Bukauskas in the house again. Always a pleasure to talk to the man. He's a lovely gentleman, but I'm really looking forward to his next fight, mate, because I think he's got something to prove. I think not to maybe to you or to himself, but just some people who've doubted him coming off the back of that Jimmy Crute fight. But to me, like I said during the interview or whatever, like when we were talking to him, like Jimmy Crute is a top 5 fighter, and I fully expect him to beat Anthony Smith comfortably. I got to be honest. So we had a UFC card last night, mate, with a main event of Curtis Blades versus Derek Lewis, which didn't disappoint. But we'll start off at the start of the card, mate. Did you watch any of the prelims? Anything on the prelims sort of catch your eye?
I don't know whether I did. I may have watched more than I watched. Hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5 fights I saw.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5. So there was 6 on the main card. So which one did you miss?
All right.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That would have been the Spivak one. I've actually got that playing now.
Spivak is on the prelims.
So that was on the prelims.
Yeah. So the main card was Tom Aspell versus Alofsky.
Yeah, watch that.
Phil Horves versus Amayov. Chris Dekaus versus Aloynek. Derek Miner versus Charles Rosa. Yana Kunitsteya versus Catalina Riviera. And then the main event was the Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blades. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Let's just go through and find out.
Yeah, man. But I did want to talk to you a bit about the Spivak fight, because Sergei Spivak he's been doing all right. He's been sort of ticking along. I was surprised that he was like so low on the card. Like, I'm not saying I thought he should be on the main card, but I just was surprised to see him. You know, I think it was the first fight actually on the prelims, but I know you said you're watching that now.
Yeah.
Anything sticking out for you from his performance?
Yeah, it just looks like he's just very, very strong in his top position. You know, it looks, that's what it looks like from this first round.
Yeah, he's a big, strong dude. The second round,
yeah,
very much the same.
Yeah, he just looks like he's just genetically bigger, and knowing how to impose himself. Yeah, he's looking pretty convincing so far.
He's going to be one to watch, I think, isn't he? Because of his size and he just dominates his opponents. He seems bigger than his opponents in that same division. And I know, like, you get like a slight weight difference and height difference, but he just seems genetically bigger than everyone. It's kind of interesting because he's clearly, when he gets on top, he's clearly very difficult to stop.
I mean, I'm watching Riviera now, and he's just clumsy on his feet when he's clinched up in the wrestling. He just doesn't look advanced enough in his wrestling. Spivak's not even having to chain together any complex routines in the wrestling. He's getting down, and once he's got down on his back, Riviera just doesn't have the know-how to scramble it back up. He's right near the fence, and he's not using the fence to try and scramble back up. He's setting him to be on his back and survive. That's not too impressive. So as much as Spivak's doing really good, his opponent was not really giving him much issues. Wasn't even making his successes hard earned for. You know, he's having an easy run. Looks like a sparring session actually for Spivak.
So the first fight on the main card, Andre Alofsky versus Tom Aspell. We talked about it a little bit just now, but what did you think of Tom Aspinall's performance? Because this is a big fight for him.
Yes, it was. I was not too sure whether the fight was going to be a step up in experience a little too soon for him, because he has been performing incredible, but it's still relatively inexperienced in the big scheme, especially going up against someone like Alofsky, who's been in it a long, long time and right at the top level as well. And Alofsky's kept himself in good shape as well. You know, he's still absolutely legit. You very rarely see him gassed or out on his feet because of his age. He's still absolutely relevant in there. I just thought Aspinall might have tried to go for a premature finish and might find himself gassed and then being picked apart in later rounds. That nearly happened, I felt. Aspinall really went for these body shots, really wasted a lot of energy in them. They weren't really doing a lot of damage to Alofsky. I think he done more damage to his head when he went on this little mad flurry. But as the fight went on, you see him slow down a little, and Alofsky started coming forward on that sense and a little bit of confidence. Aspinall went on another little flurry. He went to the ground. Now, I was really disappointed in Alofsky's lack of awareness of what might come. I don't know whether he was just hurt and wanted a way out, but he had both hands on the mat when Aspinall hooked in the rear naked choke. No fighting of the wrists whatsoever. A little bit surprising. A little bit disappointing, but it is what it is, and Aspinall took a great victory in taking out someone like Alofsky. Like we said before, I just feel like if you're going to stop someone like Aspinall growing in confidence and growing in experience and growing in skill set with his training, I know he's with a great camp, a great team, you're just going to see him get better and stronger, and that size is right at the top end of that sort of like size in that division. Is going to be a hard force to reckon with, being that he's so young.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I couldn't agree more with you with that. It's one of them, isn't it? It's like, it was an impressive display.
Yeah.
And it's a big name to take. Like, for me, like on your resume and that, I think it positions Aspinall nicely now to try and push on, in and up those rankings. The heavyweight division is a real interesting one, and we're going to talk about it in the main event in a bit. But we said last week there's some beatable names in there for the younger guys to come up and try and take a head from. Was there anyone who you'd like to see them pit Aspinall against next? I mean, if you're looking at the bottom of the rankings, you've got like Tibura's 15th, Pavlovich, Ivanov, Junior Dos Santos, Walt Harris, Olyanek obviously lost last night.
Yeah. Do you know what? To be honest, any of those would be a great pick for him. But we haven't seen much of his groundwork. Perhaps be good to see him, up against someone that could wrestle a little bit better. Maybe see what he's got in regards to his defensive game to avoid the ground, and maybe if he gets put to the ground, see what he has there out of the pure interest. But with that kind of performance, he could be ready to fight any of those. I think the problem for him is he's not getting much cage time, and he's sort of like disposing of people quite quickly, and that's not going to be good for your experience growth, is it? But
no.
Let's just watch. It's too soon to say how he's going to blossom, but I'm sure he's going to be developing very, very nicely each performance that we see him in.
At the end of the day, you can only beat what's in front of you, can't you? And you can only do what you can do, but he's doing it very, very well at the moment. Next up was Phil Hawes versus Nasruddin Imavov, with Phil Hawes looking pretty good. He defeated Imavov via majority decision, 28-28, 29-28, 29-28. So one of the judges had it as a draw.
Right, that was quite surprising, to be honest. Howes looked really, really good. He just looked so strong, although he was wobbled a little too easy for my liking. Is that due to cutting a lot of weight? Because he's highly muscled at that division.
He's jacked, isn't he?
Yeah, Imavov, he just didn't play a good strategy. He's got the ability to hurt Howes, but he just didn't footwork right. He didn't play the right game for his physicality advantages, which was clearly, his footwork and fluidity of his striking. He just got crashed into the wrestling and got put down and had his game somewhat smothered. It's quite frustrating to watch his performance, because at times when he got free and started doing the damage, you started sitting up on the edge of your seat thinking, okay, look, he's going to come back with an emphatic stoppage win. But he got quickly stamped out by Howes' clinch game. He just got screwed, really. It almost looked like Howes was more like a physical man, and Imavov was almost boyish when he got clinched up. He kind of didn't even get taken down with super crisp wrestling. He was bowled down with just a simple, hip brace, just sucked him in and picked him up and slammed him down to the ground. Yeah, a little bit. And I was just a little surprised, that he didn't have a little bit more in him and a little bit of more know-how. You would think that his corner team would be telling him footwork off centre line and try and keep Howes out striking range where he was having success. His successes were just fleeting and not enough to stamp the authority on the match to either win the rounds in terms of judges or to get a stoppage win, which I think he was capable of, but just doing it in the wrong way. And he paid the price by losing the fight.
Yeah, it was a bit of a wild finish right at the end of that third round. Imavov landed a big knee that had forced Hawes back, and Imavov started throwing quite wildly. He nearly knocked Hawes out, but Hawes was still standing. He wobbled against the cage. Imavov was against the cage, and then the buzzer sounds, and it went to the judges' scorecards. I thought Hawes was generally, like the fight overall, very, very impressive. I agree with your assessment of Imavov, but I also felt that he showed glimpses of something, but just maybe his game plan wasn't where it should have been. Next up, we had Alexei Olyanek, who's ranked number 10, versus Chris Dakaus. Now, this one only went 1 minute 55, with Chris Dakaus picking up the victory. To some, this was a surprise, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, Olyanek, we know he's got a really good submission game. He's never looked great on his feet. He sort of like gets the job done. He sort of like mopes forward like Frankenstein and throws big shots in and clinches up and tries to get it to the ground. It was really surprising the way he tried to drag it to the ground with that head and arm position and sort of flopped to his back. It looked very, very clumsy. But he is generally clumsy on his feet, but he's so effective. He's got so many wins on his resume, so you can't write him off when he's doing this. It's just the way he is. But Bukauskas started looking really good with his hands. It looked like he's throwing them really thick and fast. And when he started defending the takedown and throwing in those shots, he started to wobble at Oleg, and it started looking vulnerable. And Oleg was not throwing anything back. Got pinned up against the fence. When I say pinned up, I don't mean wrestling pin. Got pinned up against the fence with the striking, and just didn't footwork off. I think this is a big problem for him. He just doesn't have any lightness about his footwork, and he just got fixed up against the fence. And of course, the ref's going to step in. So many unanswered blows. And he was really given a little longer chance than most, I think, for the fact that he weren't falling over or wobbling, but he was just fixed in this statued position. While Bukauskas was just opening up on him. But it was a great victory for Bukauskas.
It was, yeah. There was a point about 45 seconds in where Oleg tries to, he got him in like his grip of his head and his arm, and he tries to drag him down. And sometimes he gets turned around himself, and before you know it, Bukauskas is unloaded on him from a dominant position because Oleg tried to drag him down. Bukauskas just used his strength, held him off, and then you had Oleg sat in like a sitting position, and Bukauskas is just unloading on him. And then as he's trying to scramble up, Oleg's got his back to him, and he's taking shots, and he never quite got himself settled after that. He just kept taking shot after shot, and particularly in these heavier weight divisions, mate, you can't expect the referees to just allow shot after shot and knees and punches to the head. They're just not going to do it, mate. They're just not going to do it. No matter
no. We both, I think, noticed that when someone's going on a flurry and you're not doing anything back to prevent it, either shooting or just changing the rhythm of the fight. You can't just stay there and take punches like that. You've got to get a move. You either got to throw something back and get knocked out, or potentially, or maybe knock them out, or you got to footwork and you got to run away. You do see some people just run off the fence, literally just sprint and almost turn their back on the guy to get out. You would think he would show some kind of an urgency, but he just didn't. He just stayed there.
Sluggish, and he's real sluggish.
Yeah, it didn't look very good. You remember when we saw him against the Brazilian? Oh my goodness, what was his name? The world champion jiu-jitsu guy. Terrible with names. Big dude. He looked great. His cardio was incredible, and he sort of like just put the cardio on him. He looks so out of shape. A kind of disappointing performance here. He's so hit and miss. He's either great with what he does and forces his clumsiness onto people, gets the job done, or he can lose like that, where it looked like nothing was going to be successful that he was attempting. It was an ugly fight for him.
It was, yeah. Next up was the only fight I haven't seen, which was Darek Minor versus Charles Rosa. So tell me about this one, mate.
All right, yeah, this was good. This was initially, to sum up the fight, it was a lot on the ground with Darek Minor playing the top position, and you had Charles Rosa happy to play off his back and looking really dangerous. He had a couple of near misses with arm bars, really got active hips, but Darek Minor was just really controlling the positions enough to sort of smother it. Rosa, it was almost like Rosa was, if you was looking at this in terms of striking, it was like one guy was just going hell-bent on the knockout every time he did throw, but for the like couple of flurries he'll do in a round, he'll throw the round away on points, but just go for the knockout. It was like that in reverse for the grappling. It was like Rosa was trying all out on his back to get the submission, and Minor was just trying to get through the rounds without being submitted and just get the win on each round. It surprised me, really, Charles Rosa's approach to the fight, because fighting off your back predominantly ain't going to get you the win. I mean, you've got to submit someone if you're going to fight off your back, you pretty much. And as much as he was trying that, it's a funny game plan to put, especially as Munez is a good grappler himself. He really is. A lot of people would see him as a better grappler than Charles Rosa, possibly. Indeed, it seemed to present itself that way. So, yeah, a little bit of higher eyebrows in Charles Rosa's approach to this match. I don't think it was the way to try to go about trying to get the win. a little surprise there, but great for Minor. Minor did start to look a little tired towards the latter part of that third round. Had this been a 5-round contest, things perhaps could have been different, but it wasn't the case. It was a 3-round fight, and Rosa lost all 3 rounds.
Yeah. Like I say, I didn't watch that one, but I appreciate your breakdown of it, mate. Nonetheless.
Yeah. There were some good things that happened in there. It was good because it's different. Now we're seeing so many slugfests on the feet in MMA. It was nice to see some grappling exchanges. But yeah, it was me on top pretty much, and Charles Rosa underneath. And that's a good way of knowing that you've lost a round if you don't get the submission.
Yeah. Next up was Yana Kunitskaya versus Ketlin Vieira, with Yana Kunitskaya getting the victory via unanimous decision, 29-28 across the boards. This was a good little fight, mate, I thought.
This was a good little fight. I was actually surprised on the decision. I don't know whether you felt the same. Vieira was very, very good in the first round. She succeeded with the takedown. She looked slightly physically bigger than Yana. And it looked like it was going to, pretty much go this way for the 3 rounds, but not the case. The second round was like the first round in reverse. It was Yana that got Vieira down and was playing all the top position. So, to me, it was 1 round apiece. But in that third round, when Yana was beginning to get confident that, the tide had turned in the fight, she was really starting to breathe out and making noises with her strikes, clearly feeling confident. And with that confidence, become complacent, because Riviera took her down really quite easily, too easily. And she was all over on the grappling front, I felt, for much of the third round, where she ended up going for an attempt on the back, but lost control of Yana briefly, for which they got stood up and reversed the position. But now, the only way I could think why the judges scored it for Yana rather than Vieira was that Vieira, although she controlled the positions on the ground, really didn't do any type of striking or damage. And when Yana had a brief moment on top, which I think was less than a minute, she was going in with elbows and punches. She was really trying to get the win. I think that was the case. So I think there could be a lesson learned. The fighters who watch this and see that kind of judging, that look, if you take someone down and you get good positions, get proactive. I'm talking about striking. I always say this to my students: work hard on the takedown. The next thing you work hard on is establishing position. Then go to town with strikes before any submission attempt. Just get some damage to score the takedown. The takedown ain't truly scoring unless you secure it with some ground and pound. That's what I think went against her here. But I was still surprised that her hand got lifted at the end of it. I just thought she lost the first round and thought she lost the third round.
Yeah, me too. I thought Vieira, that third round, from a grappling point of view, completely won the round comfortably. But one thing which I think always works in the favour is the round finishes with Kunitskaya had rolled into top control and she was ended the fight. The last thing the judges see is Kunitskaya hitting these massive elbows from from that position, and I just wonder whether that's tipped it, because I felt Vieira won that third round quite comfortably.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was just surprised. I felt that she won the first round. Would you agree?
I always get confused with the rounds. Yes. So Vieira won the first round comfortably, and then because the second round was almost like a mirror image of the first, but with Kunitskaya on top. It is what it is. I just thought Vieira won, basically. And then the next fight was the main event of the evening. This was enjoyable. Curtis Blades faced Derek Black Beast Lewis. Derek Lewis is just a born entertainer. People sometimes don't like some of the stuff he says. I don't really care what he says, because ultimately, when it comes to fighting, the man entertains me, and he did it again today. Curtis Blades, by the way, has been on fire recently. Like, this isn't the Curtis Blades of a couple of years ago, who was like one amazing fight, one great fight, he was very up and down, very unpredictable. Like Curtis Blades has been on a bit of a tear. He's really improved his game. So for Derek Lewis to come in and he knocked him out clean.
Yeah, he did.
Second round.
Yeah, and when we spoke about the predictions, I think you went with Blades and I went with Derek Lewis. Partly I really like the guy, but I just know that he's always in there to knock you out. And I just felt like we know what Blades is going to do. He's going to strike up a little bit. He's going to shoot in. He's going to try and get Derek down. But Derek's defense was so much better than it's been. Really has advanced that part of his game. We didn't really see him get tested on the ground. He's only on the ground briefly, wasn't he? But
that was because of his defense, though, mate. I think.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
Like, the Derek Lewis of a couple of years ago, he gets taken down by Curtis Blades in the form that he's in, and the game, the way Curtis Blades has improved. Like Derek Lewis would have got taken down time and time again.
Yeah.
But he was just able to withstand it. And then I feel like Derek Lewis, if he can defend takedowns, it's gonna come down to whether his gas tank stays in for him against whoever, because he can always knock someone out. It's just whether he can do it over a few rounds. If his defense is good from a takedown point of view, then he's got a chance against anybody.
Yeah. No, I agree. Look, Derek Lewis kept threatening the uppercut and kept throwing the uppercut. And my criticism of Blade was he never shot in without throwing the hands. Well, he just shot in. He didn't throw shots to occupy the arms, so the uppercut weren't coming. If you have a look at the replay or look back at the finish, he just shot in. There was no throwing of hands. There was no threatening of a kick to disguise the entry. He literally just dropped diagonally down. And if you're going diagonally down, if you're going down in this direction, diagonally, and the uppercut's coming diagonally up, that's going to make for an epic collision, fist to chin.
Not something you want to do, is it? Meeting Derek Lewis's uppercut with your own momentum.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Look, Blades, he strikes really nice. He can shoot and wrestle you down. He's got so many ways to potentially beat Derek Lewis, but I just think he hasn't evolved his entry for the takedown enough. And he got set up. This was all about game plan. I really think Derek Lewis was improving his takedown defense and throwing the uppercut so that when Blades goes for the takedown, he's going to have to fight through some flack. It's going to have to shoot with some anxiety there. Because in the first exchange for the takedown as well, Derek Lewis come off on top, didn't he? Do you remember the very first shot?
Yes, yeah.
Again, it was a little clumsy, and Derek Lewis's game plan. It was to sit away, not waste any energy with just attacking with the hands. He was purely counter-attacking the clinch game. He would even stay receiving shots on the outside. He was just conserving energy for the pocket. And
he took
Blades
a couple of leg kicks
it
as well, didn't he? Just waiting.
He did. To me, I think Blades was looking great with his striking. I think he should have kept it as a kicking game. And I think he would have kicked the fight out of Lewis. But he didn't. He kept shooting in, and he kept going through that danger zone of that uppercut and those hook punches that Derek Lewis is really powerful and known for. And he landed right on that uppercut, really. Blades will look back at that and shake his head and be a little bit disappointed, I think, because he was beginning to edge the fight and take over from Lewis.
We've talked about fight IQ, mate, a lot on the different episodes, and like Curtis Blades, he was doing everything right. He was low kicks to just setting him up, but he was doing little feints with his right hand as well to feint coming in. But when he was coming in, that's where he was letting himself down, like you mentioned. Yeah. But everything else around that, he was doing well. He was setting it up with little feints, and he was little low kicks and stuff like that. But it was just that movement when he was going in for that takedown or the clinch.
There was no blending.
No. But then I think there was about 30 seconds of the first round to go, and he does go in, and as he goes in, he hits a big right uppercut, right hook on Derek Lewis, and it shook Derek Lewis a bit, and didn't wobble him, just got his attention.
Stunned him, yeah.
But Curtis Blades, I think that's the only time he did it in the fight, when he's going in towards a clinch or a takedown. That's the only time he throws a punch, which is strange for me because, like you say, he done, or like I was saying, like everything else around his game in terms of setup was there and was looking sharp.
Yeah.
But Derek Lewis, he's just so dangerous, mate.
He is dangerous,
you just can't make him. This top level, particularly in that heavyweight division, you cannot make a mistake, even for a split second.
Yeah, they don't even have to hit you clean to knock you out. They can skim a shot, and it could be the shot that follow up thereafter. They're big guys. They're powerful guys, and you make one mistake, it's normally curtains, and we saw that today.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Derek Lewis, they asked him about some of the shots after the referee had stepped in, whether they were needed, and he said, I had to make sure he wasn't going to do an Undertaker, where the Undertaker sits up, doesn't he, after he's been beaten up or whatever, which I thought was as typical Derek Lewis and entertaining. But Derek Lewis has got to be up there for a title shot now, I think. Really.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing good things. Blades is highly contested, and he just knocked him the hell out.
Equally, I just think if he faced Stipe, who's the current champ, I just see Stipe taking him apart methodically. I don't know how you feel about that, but if give me Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis all day, because that'd be good to watch. So
that'd be good to watch.
Be amazing. But yeah, we got some big fights coming up, mate, over the next few weeks. Another top guest this evening, which is always good. Obviously, you're away at the end of March for a couple of weeks, which I've already made some moves to replace you.
Okay.
Got one in already. Gonna try and get some guests as well. Obviously, always looking for guests. But so we've got a very good guest to start March the 7th for us. But the week beginning March the 8th, we got a very good guest, Cage Warriors, fighting on the Cage Warriors trilogy card. Arguably one of the biggest names in British, or certainly in Cage Warriors. There isn't many bigger names than him, mate. But we won't announce it just yet. But I'm sure people can work it out. I think I gave a hint last week anyway and said something which would have given it away. But we're always working on guests. If there is a certain fighter you'd like to see or coach, then don't hesitate to let us know, and we'll always do our best to try and contact them and get them in. Some of these fighters are very difficult to get hold of, but we try. We try. But Danny, as ever, I appreciate your time, mate.
Yeah, it's been another awesome weekend. Really enjoyed it.
Spot on, mate. Guys, subscribe, youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Click that bell for notifications. Spread the word. Tell your friends. And get involved. And, of course, you can download the audio version at all the usual places. Check out awaydayapparel.co.uk. If you want 10% off all orders, use AA Podcast Nation, all lowercase, and you'll get 10% off their incredible gear. They've got a very good, it's called Sound from the Streets collection. Some real nice clothing at the moment. So I urge you to check them out. And of course, we'll be back next Wednesday for another episode of the Danny Batten Fight Show, where we'll be looking at Rosenstruck main event next week, among other things. And we should have another guest, hopefully, as well. But until then, we bid you adieu. Danny, I'll see you on the next week, mate.
I'll be there.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
You're listening to Ace Podcast Nation, the hottest new podcast network and YouTube channel in the UK, featuring original series, top guests, expert analysts, and more. Check out facebook.com/Acecast Nation for news on latest guests and shows. Watch every show in full at youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation.